You're listening to The Artist Athlete, episode 49. This podcast is dedicated to CIRCUS. It's a place for professionals in the industry to share their stories, viewpoints, and information, and a place for outsiders to get a sneak peek into this world. I'm Shannon McKenna, and I'm the host of the Artist Athlete podcast and the founder of theartistathlete.com. Do you freaking love this podcast? Have you binged 5 episodes in the last 24 hours? I know some of you have because you post about it on Instagram. Do you listen to it while you're training every day? I know some of you do that too because you tell me on Instagram. So if you're one of those people and you haven't yet, I highly suggest you become a Patreon, because literally the only way you can continue to binge these episodes or train to them is to help me keep the podcast going. You can pledge as little as $1 a month. If you pledge $5, I'll send you a sticker. There's a whole swath of them coming in the Canadian Post for a whole bunch of you, I promise. But the way to do that is to become a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/theartistathlete, find out what it's all about. I leave little messages for my Patreons. I do giveaways. I'm going to do a special 50th episode podcast for all y'all Patreons out there. Go in. It's a great community and check it out. My guest today is Jim Maltman. Jim started his career as a Ringling Brothers and Barnum clown. For the past 20 years, he has toured the world with various circus shows and productions and headlined with various cruise ships. Because Jim has done so much, he can share a great perspective on what it's really like to work in the circus industry, what it's like to tour, what happens when gigs fall through, because that happens, how to make your own work. It's all here in this interview. In this interview, also, I mentioned Steve Smith, who was a guest on this show on episode 24 of the podcast. It's not vital to Jim and I's conversation that you hear that. Like, you won't be missing out if you don't listen to that one first. But I do make some references to it. So if you want to, and you haven't yet, go back and check out episode 24. It's a really beautiful interview. If I do say so myself. The other thing that's in this interview is a whole lot of coughing and sniffling, because I did it back in April in Atlanta during pollen season, and both Jim and I have hella allergies. But I promise we're not contagious. Here's my interview with Jim Maltman. James Maltman. Nobody calls you James Maltman.
No. James is more I use for like the business stage stuff.
Oh, whoa. Okay. Well,
my SAG card.
Your SAG card has James on it?
Yeah.
All right, Jim.
Are
you Jimmy to anybody?
Yeah, my family back in New Jersey.
Nah. Okay. Jim Maltman, welcome to the Artist Athlete
Thank
podcast.
you. I'm happy to be here, and this is fun.
Cool. Can you start by saying who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is...
We're both over here just like...
I know. It's the pollen in the air here in Atlanta.
Is nuts.
Yes, my name is Jim Maltman. I come from a little town in South New Jersey, and I got out before the mullet grew. And
well done.
Thank you. Bunch of Jersey corn and everything. But I am a professional circus clown, physical comedian.
How long have you been a circus clown and physical comedian?
I ran away with the circus. I went to the Ringling Brothers Barnum Clown College in 1994. Let's see, it's been around for 50 years, the clown college, and...
Or it was around for 50
years. For 50 years. So they had something like over 1,200 students that attended. And that's it.
Wow, 1,200.
That's about it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What inspired you to go to clown college?
I lost a bet.
Shut up.
No, yeah.
Shut up. That is really?
No. Honestly, I didn't know anything really about circus growing up because small town. I mean, this town had nothing around. It had like a bowling alley, one movie theater, and a plaza with a Kmart.
Yeah, place to get coffee.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my escape was I had a teacher get me into theater. My background is mostly when I was young, and my early adult life was I'm a trained actor, musical theater. I won some awards when I was younger and all that stuff. But then, I never knew anything about the circus.
What kind of awards did you win?
Acting awards,
Just an Emmy here. Just like a guy named Tony.
But I ended up, I don't know. I think I went to the circus once when I was a kid, and it was at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. And I thought it was cool, but I didn't have that bug. I have some Ringling friends that are just obsessed with circus and clowning, and that just wasn't in my DNA back then. But I did grow up loving like physical comedy. I mean, Three Stooges. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, at one point my mother thought I was going to like take a hammer to my sister's head and, hey, and so she would limit my Three Stooges. Yeah, mostly it was theater background. And then I like to say the circus saved me because at that point in my life, when I started hearing about circus, I was doing acting around Philadelphia and tri-state area, and I was making a little money here and there, but I was practically homeless. I didn't have much family support. And then I did a production of Barnum, and some of the cast members were great jugglers, and then one of them happened to be an ex-Ringling Brothers clown, a guy by the name of Chris Shelton, and he would see me do all these pratfalls and physical comedy, and I was just making stuff up, and he's like, "You'd be a good candidate for clown college," and I was like,
You're like, screw you, man.
I was like, there's a school for idiots? What? I didn't, I was like, what the heck is this? So he's like, no, really think about it. So somebody on the cast was interested. So we took like a little road trip on one of our days off from doing the production. And we went up to the Meadowlands in New Jersey and we auditioned. And it was just kind of like...
What was that audition like?
It was a lot of, you sign up, they got a video camera and some of the clowns come out and just like, okay. And they kind of give you some improv stuff.
Okay.
So, throw something on the floor and they're like, what is this? It's anything but.
Yeah.
The old improv thing that I still teach to this day. But so, we did a bunch of improv and then I went up and I did a little bit of this like monkey character that I did in the show. And I didn't think anything of it. And then next thing I know, I get a call like 2 weeks later and the dean of clown college, called me. And he's like, hey, I saw your audition tape. We're going to be in Philadelphia. Could you come audition again? So I went. And I auditioned again, and they hand me this 20-page booklet, and they're like, fill this out and as soon as possible. And I was like, okay. So I didn't really take it serious. I was like, well, I don't know, because at that time I didn't have any family support.
Yeah.
But I did manage to get into a couple colleges for art, but I had no money.
Sure.
And no family support, no nothing. So I was like, you know what, let's give this a shot. So,
does clown college, is it free?
No, it wasn't. So I kind of scraped together and scammed a little bit just to kind of get some money in the pocket.
Okay.
And basically, so I filled out this, it was interesting because...
So Steve Smith has been on this show. And
Steve Smith, yes.
Yeah.
Steve Smith, the greatest. He is like a rainbow and bubbles and confetti wrapped in one.
He's a doll and a half of a man.
He's great. He was my...
And he has referenced this booklet on this show before, actually.
I might still have a copy buried somewhere.
You do? Oh, man,
but
okay.
It's really intense because...
Yeah, he told me the secret to filling it out. So I'm interested. How did you fill it out?
I want to hear the secret, see if I did right.
Well, I can't tell you unless you tell me first.
I haven't looked it over in years, but I mean... they're looking for a certain individual that can, it's not just about the talent, but it's also, can you survive on the road? Because it's grueling. I mean, you're out for 11 and a half months out of the year. sometimes 9 shows on a weekend and pack up, load out. It's crazy. So, I was looking at some of these questions and it's like, when's the last time you cried and why?
Wow.
And it's just like, okay. And, who your influences at favorite books. And so they're getting into the whole psychology of an individual. So yeah, you can be the most talented person in the world, and I've seen some talented people get on the road, but they just can't handle living on a train, going from city to city.
What does it mean to you to be a talented person? Or a talented clown, maybe we should specify.
That's a good question. Everyone has something that they bring to the table. The thing, at least for clown college, because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got there, and I was still on the fence. So when I see that Circus saved me, I spent my last $200 to drive from Philadelphia to Baraboo, Wisconsin, where they had that year clown college. So I had nothing left. I had no money. I let my insurance run out.
Okay.
And I was like, well, let's see what happens. Because if nothing comes about, and the crazy thing about clown college is, it may sound absurd, but it's harder to get into clown college than it is to get into like Harvard or Yale.
Huh.
Because thousands of people apply and they only accept 25 students.
Wow.
And out of those 25, I think there was maybe 4 of us that got contracts.
Okay.
So that was intense. But Steve made it magical. There's something about Steve Smith. If you ever you've met him, but if anybody else gets a chance to meet him, he changed my life. And, you pull up in this bus and these big doors open and it was bubbles and confetti and the whole
He
crew
really is
just,
like a Willy Wonka.
Everyone's clapping.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, that's so great. And next thing I know, I'm just like, what's going on? Oh my God. I'm crying. And, you just get caught up in it. And after like a day or two, I was like, this is for me. Clown college is a big toy box. They can't make you funny, but they can give you a bunch of toys to play with and see what works for you. Are you going to be more of a skills clown? Are you more of a physical comedian? Can you write gags? Or are you just going to be one of the pretty clowns that stands there in sequence?
There are pretty clowns?
There are pretty clowns that stands there in sequence and poses and points and white gloves and yes. But
What kind of clown are you?
I don't know.
What?
I like this. Well, nowadays, I've changed over the years. Nowadays, I like to call myself a modern day vaudeville comedian. I don't take as many big falls now, but it depends on the show.
Okay.
But that year, what they did was they split us up into 3 teams. So you had A group, B group, and C group. And I guess I did something right because they put me in the A group, and the A group had some phenomenal talent. And it was guys and gals. There was some really funny female clowns too, who were good gag writers, come up with some great premises and character work. The B class was a little more, they were funny, but a little more based on skills, 6-foot unicycle, juggling, stilt walking and stuff like that. Yeah. So I kind of went back and forth. Well, I was mostly A, but then they threw me into some B stuff.
What about the C class?
C?
Those are the pointing clowns. Those are the pretty clowns.
But they were still phenomenal.
Right. Because this is on the record, sure.
No. They were still, and some of them were, these are lifelong friends,
Yeah.
It was such a bonding moment. Yeah, there was something you're going at it from 8 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night. You're just.
And are you generating material?
Yeah.
Are these acting exercises?
It's everything. It's everything. You're doing makeup classes to find your clown character. And, you're doing a lot of improv stuff. We had a great teacher, Dick Monday, who went on
That's a great name.
Yeah, who went on to become the Dean of Clown College after Steve Smith.
Okay.
And he was one of my favorites there because his improv classes were really great. But yeah, they throw in everything. Skills and, I got pulled into this. And then I was, basically what you're doing is you're writing and learning this craft. And you're there for a couple months. And then at the end of this, crazy adventure, you're thrown up on a stage And then the president and producer, Kenneth Feld, who owns Ringling, shows up with all his people. You got a number on your chest. You go do the show, and they don't laugh. The audience does, but they're just really watching you kind of do your thing. And,
and they're the ones who determine who gets the contracts.
Yeah. And then and this was also kind of odd that particular year. You do the show, threw a little party for us. You're wiped out. I got through it. I wrote a bunch of gags that got in. I was kind of featured, which was a lot of fun. I was even working injured. I was like, I'm not going to miss the show. So I messed myself up doing teeterboard with a Russian trainer. Get up, do it again, you know? So basically, they threw a big party. The next day, you're called into this big room at this theater at the Circus World Museum in Baraboo, Wisconsin, which I highly recommend if you're a circus fan to go. They do a little speech, and then at the end of the speech, at the time, the VP of Talent came out, and he had a little speech, and he's like, okay, we'd like to see the following people. And he starts naming off names, and then I don't hear my name. And I'm like, wow, I'm done. And then he goes, oh, yes, and Jim Maltman, thank you. Everyone else, I hope you had a great time. Your flight's in the morning. I mean, it was pretty cutthroat, and, you know, you're walking in front of all these people who you really bonded with, and I was crushed, you know, saying goodbye to these people. But then you didn't know if you were getting an alternate position or an actual contract. So they took you out of a room one at a time, and then I'm sitting in, I finally get called, and I walk into this office, and there's Kenneth Feld, and we talked for a little bit, and he's like, so, want to be part of my show? And I was like, yeah, you know, yes, sir. And he slides a contract, and, you know, I signed it, and then 2 weeks later, I'm in the Center Ring in Chicago. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
How long were you with Ringling?
94 through 98.
So 4 years.
Yeah, so I started off, because Ringling has 2 units. I started off on the blue, and then they asked me to transfer to the red because I could sing, and they were kind of propping me up to be the next singing ringmaster. So yeah, it was quite the adventure.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. Why did you leave in 98?
It was time.
Okay.
It was time. It was changing.
How so?
I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just, you had to be there on the road. You knew that clown college was kind of fading out. There was things I asked for, and I didn't get. And
okay, so the treatment of the artists was a little different.
Yeah, a little bit. At least for me, those were some of my fondest memories in circus work. You know, because especially my last year on the Red Show, we had a bunch of new clowns that came on, and these guys were out of control. I mean, so much fun. I mean, we were doing stuff. Let's just say a bunch of those guys went to clown college with Steve-O from Jackass.
Oh my gosh.
So, but we were doing Jackass stuff before Jackass was big.
Yeah, sure. Biggest Jackass stunt on the road.
Oh.
What do you got?
There's some stuff I can't talk about.
What can you talk about?
It was just, well, you got to also keep in mind, you're doing a show, so each tour goes out for 2 years.
Okay.
And then your first year is the big tour, the big city, Madison Square Garden, you know.
That's your first year?
First year is all the big arenas in every city, you know. And then the second year is what we call the rodeo route. So you're playing like Raleigh, North Carolina, or, you know, it's stuff like that. So you're doing this show, you're on the, for practically a year. So, to keep morale up, you do crazy stuff like, hey, I'm going to do this. Who's got $5? I mean, just craziness. But these guys were tremendous that last year. And I mean, we're like brothers and sisters. I mean, it's family.
Yeah.
I love, to this day, yeah, I love these people so much. They're my family. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm thinking about other circus acts and people I know who've done Ringling or done that kind of work. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the clowns always live a little separately. What's up with that?
I don't know if we live separately. It was interesting when I got on the road. I actually joined at a horrible time for Ringling Brothers. When I joined in 94, it was right after a train accident.
Oh, no.
So one of the girl clowns was killed. And so morale in Clown Alley was just, they're there to do a show, but you saw the pain in their eyes. And here I am, fresh young 20-something-year-old punk, just like, let's do this. And I'm bouncing off the walls. And,
sure.
You would go out for opening and we all run out and go, hello. And they just kind of like shrink back into themselves. And, they would go through the show and they were still phenomenal, but it was crushing to them. Yeah, so it was an odd situation for me because, I'm considered an apprentice clown, but nobody wanted to really show me the ropes right away because
they were a little consumed with
absolutely
emotional processing. Sure.
Absolutely. So I kind of learned a lot of stuff on my own. So I would go out pre-show and I would just improvise. I'd go in the audience and I was writing material left and right. And there was a girl clown that got on with me, a girl by the name of Jana, phenomenal improver. Her background was acting and such. And so her and I went to a thrift store and I bought this lime green 70s tuxedo.
Nice.
And she had this awful, ruffly pink dress.
Yeah.
And that was our pre-show for like a week or two where we'd walk out and everyone in the audience was the prom.
No, that's
so just
great.
like, we're having a great time here. This is unbelievable. And just like, you're just like, hey, how's it going, Bobby? It's just improvising. So we were just coming up with material and so that helped a lot. And I think the thing that helped me feel better about the whole situation was about probably 2 months into my contract, my boss clown came up, a guy by the name of Tom Parrish, who'd been with the company for 25 years or something like that. Incredible man. And he pulled me aside and he's just like, I like what you're doing. Just keep doing that. You're doing a fantastic job. So that really kind of...
You get that so rarely when you're working. I feel like.
And it was tough because I couldn't really talk to the older clowns because they were still in that state of, I don't know, depression, but it's just, this is someone that they loved and, I'm the new guy bouncing off the walls. So I had to respect them, but at the same time, I'm there to learn. But after a while, things started going better. And then I also learned a lot where I think it was my second year on the road. The clowns actually helped create the adventure. So
what's the adventure?
What happened with the adventure was prior to the adventure, if you're a ticket holder, you go to the show, maybe a little pre-show, the clowns come out, do a little something. So we came up with this idea where we're like, let's do this thing where maybe some special ticket holders can come and try stuff out. Actually, like walk a little, low rope or, rolling globe or try,
a
little still walking.
Yeah.
So we set up an area backstage that was like 30 by 30, really small. We put this carpeting down and the clowns basically created this thing and it became a big hit. And so they were like, why are we keeping it back here? So they moved it onto the floor and it just blew up from there. And so that was 95, 96, something like that. And it became a staple until Ringling closed.
Very cool.
So that was great for me too, because you would go out and work the adventure and you had a full audience, a different audience every show, of course. And so I would, oh my God, let me try this out. And I got a shaker cup routine and my juggling got better and just improvising and it made me a much better clown.
How much of your material, I'm wondering, well, after Ringling, how much of your material do you keep or does it make sense to keep as Jim Maltman the clown? And how much of it, I don't want to say belongs to Ringling because I don't think they do like intellectual copyright the same way, but when you took those experiences or those gags or that lime green tuxedo, did you bring that into your work after Ringling?
I mean, some stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, I still do my shaker cup routine. That was another thing about Ringling that was, well, it was a little challenging because, you have an alley, a clown alley of like 20 clowns.
Can you explain what a clown alley is?
Clown alley, it's basically our dressing room. So you traveled.
For the people at home.
For the people at home. Hello, circus fans, people at home. So, every one of us had our own personalized steamer, those old-fashioned steamer trunks.
Yeah.
And we would personalize it, and that's where our costumes, wigs, makeup, everything. And then the new clowns, that was their job. Every town we would come into, that was part of their 1st of May job, where they would bring the trunks in and set up Clown Alley. But it was a little bit of a challenge. You would write the big gags for the show, but sometimes you didn't stand out because you might have like 15 people in one gag. So it's just mayhem, and it's just, it can be funny, but...
Yeah, that's part of the gag, right?
There wasn't really an individual standout, So that was a challenge to kind of stand out. And I was very fortunate because by my 2nd year, I guess I did something right because they made me a featured clown. So I played this old grandpa character in like a little clown family, and it was the adventure of following this clown family around.
Nice.
And,
Yeah.
But yeah, I was the old man clown, and then I rode elephants, and then I'd go take off the costume, run on the floor, and do trampoline, and run back and throw something else on. So actually, when I left Ringling, I stopped doing circus altogether.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Wasn't burnout. It's just I wanted to try some new things. So I ended up moving to Hollywood, California, and I worked and lived in Los Angeles for 10 years.
And what did you do?
So in the beginning, I did a lot of commercial work. As an
actor?
Yeah, I did a lot of national commercials, stunt work.
Did you miss clowning?
Well, here's the thing. I had a fantastic agent. I got in with this agency, and she would send me out for all kinds of stuff. And I was like, I'm living the Hollywood dream.
Yeah,
this is fantastic.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I got into a couple movies, and then I worked with a couple of my idols in movies, and
like who? Name names.
Well, a big influence on me was a guy named Bill Irwin.
Uh-huh.
And he actually is a Ringling graduate, but he went on to do some phenomenal work on Broadway.
Very cool.
Great physical comedian.
Yeah.
So I got hired to be in The Grinch with Jim Carrey. So it was like Bill Irwin and Jim Carrey, two of my idols.
Wow.
And so here I am, like on set for a couple months, just
Very
like
cool.
But yeah, I didn't do anything for the longest time with circus, and then Hollywood was hit with the writer's strike.
Right.
So that went on for a couple months, and then my agent called and was like, "Listen, I don't want to drop you." She's like, "But I can't pay the bills." She's like, "I can't keep the office open." So I was like, "Well, I don't like to sit around," so I created my own work. So, I started working with a friend of mine who was an ex-Ringling Brothers guy I was on the road with on the Red Show, a guy by the name of Aaron Easterbrooks. So,
wait, what's his name?
Aaron Easterbrooks.
Oh, that's a great
Yes, and for our friends who know him, Captain Forehead. But
sure, why not?
He's a great guy. He looks exactly like Donny Osmond. So, but
Donny Osmond now or Donny Osmond then?
Both. But we started working together as a comedy team called Him and Me.
Okay, cool.
We were having fun with that. We started writing all these like really fun acts, and it was fun to like write gags again.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Ringling gags. It was more like theater clowning.
Can you explain the difference?
I think theater clowning is a little more intimate. They can see your eyes, and you can walk into the audience, and everything could be small and still read. What with Ringling, you're playing arenas in front of thousands and thousands of people, and you got to be a big, Bugs Bunny cartoon. So it was fun to kind of switch into that theater clowning. And I always kind of leaned towards that with the Bill Irwin and David Shiner. Mm-hmm. David Shiner was with Cirque du Soleil. And, I always loved that type of clowning. And it fit me because I do the physical work. And then, we started doing a lot of stuff around Los Angeles. And we were like, well, let's do something with this. So we met some ex-Cirque performers. The Esteban twins that were identical twins, and I think they were in Sultan Blanco. Beautiful.
What did they do?
Trapeze.
Oh, okay.
Identical twins, so they would do a mirror trapeze act, which is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then we met up, and we were really good friends with Christine Van Loo. Mm-hmm. It was an amazing aerialist.
Yes. Such
a sweetheart. And I think we got maybe like one or two more people, and we started a company called Melange. We were like, let's see if something can happen here. So we put a show together, sold it to a nightclub called the Sunset Room, and they said, okay, we'll do 4 shows. on a Tuesday night.
Oh.
So
Okay.
they were lucky to get 20 reservations on a Tuesday night. So we had these guys in Hollywood build a stage that could collapse and we could put it away. We had a great PR team. We went out, did a bunch of PR and press and stuff. And first 4 shows sold out.
Wow.
And they were like, okay, you're with us for the rest of the year. And so within 2 months, we were selling out the dining, the bar.
So you just moved in a dinner show, basically.
Basically, it became like this hit in Los Angeles. It was like one of the top shows for 2 years in Los Angeles.
That's so cool.
And the thing I loved about it is like the talent. I mean, Christine Van Leeuwen and the Stavon twins.
Yeah, sure.
These are top-notch performers. So
Yeah.
next thing you know, I'm looking at the audience. There's Sylvester Stallone. There's Shaq. There's, Ryan Seacrest. All these like celebrities started coming to the show, and we started getting a reputation. And then we started getting bigger offers to tour around the United States. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It ended after about 2 years.
Okay.
So,
And it was just, you just wanted to have that company. You didn't want to expand it or do anything like what Cirque
well, the
did,
thing
or...
was, the people that we had in the show were so good that Cirque would call up the Saban twins and be like, hey, can you do a PR here?
Yeah.
And then, hey, Christine, can you do this? And then we would get calls, Aaron and I, and, so we just really started going in our own separate ways and just kind of, but then Aaron and I, we had a great run for about 10 years and we worked with a lot of companies.
And is that when you started doing ships? You mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I fell into ships.
Cruise ships.
Cruise ships
is what we're talking about.
Yes,
not just
cruise ships.
Not freighters.
That's a whole different monster there. The cruise
Yeah,
ships.
totally.
Yeah, I think I kind of fell into it because we had been on tour over in Europe, Aaron and I. We did a big show over in Greece, Athens, Greece. And it was a huge success, this show. And we were like on cloud 9. And we were like, this is great. And then we came back to the States and I don't know what the heck happened, but we had like 6 contracts fall out. Huh. I think we were supposed to do a run in Atlantic City. We were guaranteed like a whole summer there and the money was great. The night before we got back, the company called us and said that new management had taken over, walked in and fired all the shows.
Whoa.
So it was like,
damn.
Hey, and then they were like, here's your compensation. Here's $200, and it was supposed to be 7-8 months worth of work.
Sure.
So I was sitting in Los Angeles like, okay, well, let's see if we can generate. And we were fortunate. We had some friends that Aaron knew, also ex-Ringling. They helped set up this program for Royal Caribbean called the Cruise Comics. I needed work. They said, you want to come on for 6 months? So I went on and it was interesting. It was interesting. He gave me some look.
You can't see it, but it was side-eyeing him because
the friends who started the program were
the
really,
best descriptive word.
They were really great. Like they came up with some really fun original material.
Okay.
A guy named Al Rios.
Yeah, my question was, or was going to be from that. Mm-hmm. Did you come on with like when you're hired for that kind of gig or that material?
Yeah.
Do you come on with your own material? Do you have a 40-minute show?
They wanted me. So the cruise comic program was started by my friends, and so basically they wrote these really funny sketches, and they were really great character performers and improv people. Yeah. So they put this really great program, and it took off like wildfire. Everyone loved these characters. So you'd be having coffee on the promenade, and then like some crazy character would come out and improvise and just.
Cool. So it was like immersive kind of.
Yeah, immersive. And then like before every show in the theater, they did like a pre-show. Uh-huh. And it was really good material. But the problem was, if you have these good performers, they don't want to stay on a ship for a full year.
No.
So they started hiring people with not so strong backgrounds that had to learn their material, and eventually it gets watered down. And so I happened to join, and I had to join a team of, I think there was 4 of us, and it was pretty watered down. And I'm trying to do this material, and I'm like, I know it's funny, but these people have no performing background.
Oh.
And I had been touring for years and doing these big shows, and I get on, and this, a guy can't even remember his lines, or you're trying to juggle with someone, and they're like, I just learned last week, and you're like, oh, great. So I ended up doing I I think I did 2 months, and I called the company and I was like, thank you, but I don't know if this is for me.
Right.
I can go back and do more commercial work, but they were great. Royal Caribbean has always been great to me. So they were like, no, stay on. We're going to switch up the program. We're going to make it a 2-person team. And then what we want you to do is your own material. So that made it great, because then I could bring out my partner. But like the people who started this program, they were just phenomenal performers. And to this day, they're really great. From there, Aaron and I started doing more of the ships together.
Okay.
And people were really liking our material. So they were like, well, why are you doing this immersive stuff? Get up on the main stage. So that's when we started headlining and doing a 45-minute show. And
I see.
Yeah.
When you do animation, do you have rules for it? Like when you're doing that kind of immersive character work? Or boundaries or ways that you conceive of it? Because it's got to be improv, right? Because you're interacting with the public.
A good performer knows how to read people. You got to read people. Like I've gone to shows and I've seen people go into the audience and they mess with the wrong person, and it just falls flat. Or you're not going to approach someone with their arms crossed. One thing I like to do, especially if I work circus shows or theater shows, I go out before the show out of costume and I look in the audience and I see.
Oh, you scout.
Yeah, I see who's smiling, who's laughing, who's having a good time. All the good guys do that. I remember going to see Bill Earl and David Shiner when they did a show in San Francisco. And that's exactly what they did. They weren't in costume. They just stood out. And I was like, hey, I must be onto something, because I do the same thing, So, yeah, you just learn. I guess when you do it for so many years, you just know. But I don't wear full clown makeup anymore. I don't. Every once in a while I'll get a call for it, but I had a guy once. I do shows in China every year. I do a big comedy clown festival in China. I remember the first time I did it, this was like 10 years ago. And I go out to work with my friend Aaron, and one of the guys was like, how can you be funny without clown makeup? And I'm like, watch.
I just made another face. Like, that's a really dumb thing to say, by the way, guys.
I'm like, watch, because we developed quite a few acts, and one of the acts we developed was called the Blue Boys. So basically, I sketched up this idea. It's kind of like Teletubbies meets Dr. Seuss meets.
That sounds terrifying.
My personality. So we're all in like this blue felt costume. We have big bellies and big asses, and we have big tuft of yellow hair, and we're connected with an umbilical cord. So we're very Muppet-esque and we don't talk. It's just over the top faces and rubbery, contortion, and we worked for years with that. And I remember, before we went out, this one particular guy, like, how can you be funny without makeup? And we went out there and killed. We had such a great time, and the audience was so much fun.
You went out and killed without makeup, but not the Teletubby gig.
Yeah, with
that sounds like a lot of makeup.
No, we wear no makeup.
But the costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But it's just, but other acts we would do without makeup because we're very animated, our faces. And we came off stage and, this particular guy was like, oh my God, that was unbelievable. And I'm just like, yeah, we did it without makeup. But I mean, it's hard to really teach someone that. I mean, it's just like an instinct, kind of how to mess with an audience and how to play around. My biggest thing is, especially on ships, if you're going to go in the audience and do jokes and insult people, it's a fine line. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to make fun of anyone in the audience, the first thing I do is like the first 10 minutes of my show, it's self-deprecating. I'm making fun of myself, making myself the fool, the idiot. So, it makes the audience kind of, it's okay to play with them then,
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're kind of coming towards the end of the interview. I have one last question that I ask everyone, and that is, what advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Beginning of circus career.
When you had $200, you spent it all driving cross country.
I don't know. I think I did it right. I got on the road and I kept my mouth shut. And I just learned. I watched these greats like Tom and Tammy Parrish, the Boss Clowns, Greg DeSanto, who, again, you should go to Baraboo, Wisconsin. He runs the
next time I'm in Baraboo, Wisconsin, I'll stop by.
The Clown Museum there. But I think I did it right. I mean, the thing I maybe would want to do is learn more skills, you know, and maybe get more into teaching. But that's, you know, I think I did okay.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing all right.
I think I did all right.
Well, Jimmy.
Yes.
Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that you're doing this.
Aw, shucks.
That was my interview with Jim Maltman. I didn't write a script out for this one. I think I'm just going to riff because I just listened to the playback and I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I don't want to usually I sit down and type them out on Microsoft Word, but I think I just want to talk about this guy's career, how much he's been through. I get messages all the time that are like, what's it like to be a circus artist? Or I'm thinking of becoming a circus artist. What should I do? How does it work? And I love this interview because Jim is so good and honest and has had such a career on, I don't want to say scrapping pieces together because he's so accomplished that would be kind of denigrating what he's done. But it's an example of how you go from touring on a huge arena tour of Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, which at one time was one of the largest circuses, definitely in the US, to Hollywood, to cruise ships. He had gigs set up in Atlantic City. He had, 6 months of work that can all of a sudden in a week just fall through. When I hear stories like that, it always takes me back to another clown. Excellent episode, my friend Joel Baker, who is on this podcast, and talks about how the 3 things you need to succeed in circus are don't be lazy, save your money, and always be working on a new idea. And Jim Maltman is a perfect example of this. He isn't lazy. He says at one point he got tired of sitting around waiting for work, so he made his own show. He's always working on new ideas, whether if it's with a partner, if it's by himself. He's always got new bits going on. He's always got new characters in the works. I went over to his apartment and it was full of paintings because not only is he an accomplished performer, but he's got some dope graffiti style paintings of T-Rexes, which, Jim, I really want to buy one of those one day when I have, a wall of my own. So anyway, that's what it's like to be a circus performer. It's taking all of your talent, all your drive, all your love and ambition and finding ways to make it work, to put yourself on stage, to put yourself out there. Even this podcast for me is an example of a way that I'm taking my passion and sharing it. So, end rents on that. If you want to check out more of what Jim Maltman is doing, he's in the Atlanta area, I think, still. I hope so, Jim. You can visit him on Instagram, Jim Maltman, spelled just like it sounds. He's on Facebook. His name's Jim Maltman. Reach out to him there. I am on Instagram at @the_artist_athlete, sharing training tips and inspiration. I'm also on Facebook, The Artist Athlete, and I highly recommend you go to Patreon. Please support the podcast. It's patreon.com/theartistathlete. We've got some great interviews coming up, just like this one. Subscribe, rate, review. I love you guys, and I will talk at you next week, friends, fans, and enemies. The Artist Athlete podcast is supported solely by donations from people like you. Here's what some of those people have to say.
Aloha! My name is Beth Russell, and I live on the beautiful island of Maui, Hawaii. I am an aerial artist and movement instructor specializing in chakra yoga to keep me balanced and grounded. I play with silks, trapeze, lyra, rope, acro, aerial yoga and dance, slacklining, pole, bungee, and climbing. Really anything that goes up and allows me to explore 3D space. You can find my dedicated aerial page on Instagram at Maui Aerialist. If you find yourself coming to Maui, let's play.
Hey there, friends, fans, and enemies. This is Chris Alston, Patreon of the Artist Athlete Podcast, straps artist and lyra performer and acrobat out of Greenville, South Carolina. So, if you're ever passing through, make sure to stop in and see me and my friends. We have a wonderful space, and we'd love to see you.
Hi, my name is Erica Lee. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm an aerialist. I teach performing arts to elementary school during the day and do pole and slings and rope by night. I really, really like the Artist Athlete podcast because it gives me a lot of circus goals to look forward to. It gives me a lot of insight on what's going on around the world in circus, and that's why I'm on Patreon.
Hello, all. Thank you for tuning in to the Artist Athlete podcast. I am Opal Schwartz from Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you're ever in the cities, feel free to stop by the Aviary Minneapolis. It's a great time. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and goodbye.